I want to get to your work on the Transportation and Safety Committee and Health and Welfare, but I'd like to start with a couple of big topics in the news right now. And the first
Okay.
is that letter that Senate Republicans sent to public universities, encouraging them to do something to stop kneeling during the national anthem. Of course, some see it as an opportunity to shine light on racial issues in our country, and then others see it as disrespecting our country. So why is this not a First Amendment right in your view? And do you think the Senate will take more action if universities don't do something?
Well, and thank you. It's a good question. It's a hard question. I think it is absolutely important to have purposeful and intentional conversations about these issues, kind of regarding justice, regarding the systemic disparities that are in our community. And I think those conversations are healthy. But I do feel strongly that and I will fight for people's First Amendment right and to be able to peacefully protest and the freedoms that are granted to us. But as individuals, I think the minute they put on the jersey, that they are not representing themselves; they're representing the university, and it's no different than an employee of a company. They are representing their company when they're, driving the UPS truck or working at the Marriott or working at WATE. I mean, you have certain responsibilities that you are reflecting not yourself while you're working, you're reflecting your company. And I believe the athletes are reflecting their university and reflecting their states. Playing on sports is not necessarily a right. It's a choice that people do. So they're not required to play sports, basically. And most of the athletes are on scholarships. So there has been, several court cases that says that it is reasonable for the school to put expectations on their athletes because they are representatives. So, I mean, I know I always say you can have two attorneys, you can get three different opinions. So, but that's where I feel like that they are representing the university, and the moment they walk out of the locker room and they're heading to their dorm or wherever, they can peacefully protest, and I will applaud them for doing it. They can post on their Twitter page or anything. And but we need to use these as teachable moments on why people are doing it, but like you said, why it's offensive to people that have lost loved ones dying to for our flag and for our freedoms that we have here in our country.
Safety. It has been a rough start for Knoxville in terms of violent crime is on the rise. And of course, in recent days, we've seen the deaths of three Austin East students and a lot of grieving people at home today. Is that that uptick in violent crime? Are we seeing that across the state, or is it Knoxville specific?
There's been increased violence across the state. I think some of it has had to do with the pandemic. You've had more domestic violence victims. You've had more child sex abuse. You've had a lot of, the uptick really, I think, is caused a lot by people's frustrations, whether it's lack of jobs, or just the increased mental health needs from being kind of closed down and not being able to be around people. There's been increased overdose deaths. So, I mean, it's just this whole area. We've got to get back out to community living, basically, and supporting each other. But we are looking at, the increased mental health needs. I'm actually just serving on a new national work group on looking at some potential mental health policy options for state government, and look forward to learning some more about those that I'm not already aware of, and sharing some of the things that we're doing here in Tennessee.
And also on that committee, you guys focus on state roads, and our state has seen pretty intense winter weather. Well, not our end of the state, but the folks in West and Middle Tennessee have seen a lot of winter weather. How are our roads going? I know TDOT's working on potholes, but what can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you more in a week, because TDOT comes in and does their update annually. Actually, they were supposed to do the update a week ago, but whenever we were shut down that week because of all the bad road conditions and freezing temperatures in Middle and West Tennessee. So they're going to do that at the same time they present their budget next week. I know they're working hard. It really is hard when you've got a lot of rain, a lot of wet, and then you have these freeze thaw cycles. I know they're out patching those roads as quickly as possible. There is a website that people can report potholes, and we were talking about this, and my husband goes, well, so I have to report them. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. And he travels all around the state because he does a lot of bird watching, and he knows more about the roads than probably anybody. But if there is a series that is bad, there is a place that we can go, that people can go and report those, and then hopefully that, while TDOT may know about them, it makes sure they know about them, and they're supposed to work to fix that area in a timely manner.
You've pointed out to me before that we're a pay-as-you-go state. So all of our projects, I mean, none of them are halted by the pandemic, but fewer dollars coming in through the gas tax. Has that had an impact on projects?
It's slightly. We are catching up. We were fortunate that Tennessee is a crossroads state. And so when things started opening up, well, one, your trucking industry that was needing to get all the supplies to keep the grocery stores supplied and keep, the movement of goods still took place in our state. But once people were starting to move, they were concerned about flying, so they didn't fly. They couldn't go on cruises. So where would they go? They'd come to Sevier County. They'd maybe go to Florida, but they'd cross through Tennessee. So that has helped us. It's slowed us down just a little bit on our project, but we still actually put out to contract this past December, this past calendar year, just slightly less than we did the year before. So we're working on catching up on that. Very concerned, two concerns though. We had more deaths last year on the roads, and that's because with less cars on the road, people were speeding more. And so that we've got to get a better grip on that. And then the airports come under us. And of course, they've just been devastated. They've been helped some with some of the federal money, but trying to get them caught up in, because they get basically most of their funds comes from people using their airports. They say it's probably going to be 2024, maybe before they're back at where they were. So that's significant problems. And then also the way they get their funding from their fuel of the airplanes there is based on a per gallon. I mean, it's based on a percentage, not a per gallon price. And so as their planes either use less fuel, they become more efficient, they're not getting the same amount. So they're kind of going down in the income that's coming in from some of those user fees. So that's something we're going to have to look at going forward too.
Busy year for that committee, I imagine.
Right.
On your health and welfare committee, I know there's a big topic there right now, and that is changing the metropolitan health boards, changing them from a board that can take action to a board that would serve as an advisory board. Where do you stand on that issue?
The thing about the health board is, and I can take arguments on both sides. I mean, yeah, I see some of the values of both. It has been very confusing, I think, for folks in Knox County when the governor comes out with a new, we're opening this or we're doing this and everything, but it only affects the 89 counties, and the rest of us are kind of on their own. But our citizens of Knox County say, oh, well, they're opening up the restaurants, or they're doing this, and they think, then they get all excited, and then they find out, nope, it's not us. We've had folks that, vendors that say it's event vendors, and they can only host a thing for 10 people, but these people can go to an event place the next, 10 miles down the road, next county over, and, be with 50 people. So there's to me, some logic in doing something statewide, because you take the personality of who's doing it now when you're talking about policy, but you look at what's the right policy. I know in Texas, they did everything statewide, but they also did, if certain things were going on in a particular county, then the governor made that for those counties. So there was some differentiation, but it was still the buck stopped with the governor and his advisors, his health advisors, his business advisors, and things like that. Overall, I would prefer not to make permanent decisions during the middle of the pandemic. Even though we're on the downswing, things are looking better as folks are getting vaccinated and we're moving in the right direction. I would rather get through it and then have reasonable conversations that say, okay, this was how this one went, but if we had a SARS event, we might need this. So I'm not sure exactly what that bill's going to look like by the time it gets to my committee. When it comes to health, we'll be voting on it unless we decide to send it to more of a study committee. And we really do deep dive studies when we send them to what's called summer study. Sometimes people send things to summer study and it's just to let them go by the waylay. But the Senate's
Where they die.
Yeah, the Senate's
Really
usually pretty good about really doing a study. And I just think there's several things. There's a vaccine related bill that I kind of feel the same way. I believe in people's religious right to not be forced to take a vaccine, but do we need to pass it right while we're in the middle of things, or when we can do it more thoughtfully?